You will always be slightly discontent. And that is a good thing to realize, actually. We were made to live with one eye on, this side and one eye on eternity. So one eye on this life that we say that we're living, but also one eye on that which is beyond, right? I want to just ask you some questions first. Do you put all your hopes and dreams in the right here, right now situations, possessions, positions, and people of your daily life? Do you load moment after moment with undeliverable expectations and unrealistic expectations? Do you ask people to be what people on this side of eternity cannot be and can never be? It's wonderful for you, right? To have, let's say, a good marriage, but it will never be a paradise. It definitely can be that you have a good relationship, but it will never be what you kind of dream of it fully to be. It will never fully be that. And it's great, right, to have a good relationship with your children, for instance, but they will never deliver paradise to you. It's a good thing to, have aspirations and visions about what you'd like to create and add value with on this side of eternity in this reality. But what gets realized will never fully meet our expectations the way that we dream about. And beginning to realize this is so crucial for your well-being here on earth, for a sense of peace, to be able to walk in a sense of peace, knowing that it's completely normal to be slightly dissatisfied or discontent, no matter what you have or don't have. Because without that, we wouldn't be here anyways. Without that, we wouldn't actually act upon the callings that we have from God that's been put on our hearts. So let's say you're moving into a beautiful house and everything, but that beautiful house that began decaying, that will continue to decay because it will again never be the paradise that you dreamed of it to be. As soon as you've built it, as soon as you've gotten that new car, as soon as you've gotten those, best grades or started working on that calling, then there will be something new or it will begin to decay. And so that is where your character gets developed, where you really grow in your sense of resilience and your sense of character, right? And also recognize that if other people are fundamentally flawed, then why is it then that we think that we aren't? Like, are we just an exception to the rule? Or can we begin to see that we also, just like a new house, will continue to decay? And being okay with that is necessary for you to remain peaceful in your life, so that you're not constantly in this perfectionism mentality of having to constantly, perfect yourself in a way. And so, in forgetting who God is and forgetting what is to come, you make yourself and those around you really crazy. And I know this after having worked with plenty of high performers in overcoming perfectionism, for instance, that perfectionism can become a sense of projection where you begin to project your own sense of standards onto other people around you. And this is other oriented perfectionism. And it really makes not only you crazy, but the people around you crazy. So your eternity amnesia, basically you forgetting that there is such a thing as eternity, that your spirit is eternal, that everyone's spirit is eternal. When you forget that, you can become unrealistically expectant of what people places and things are going to give you in this life. And you get vulnerable to temptation, you get all too driven, you get dependent on people and things that will only ever disappoint you, and sadly susceptible and doubting the goodness of God. Like you'll think that all these things and people will satisfy your flesh when that's not the case. So, recognizing the eternity that is to come allows you to be realistic without being kind of hopeless, and hopeful when things around you don't encourage much hope. So, what I'm really talking about here is to develop a sense of long view living and looking at life, your current life, from the point of eternity as much as you can comprehend, instead of at moment, because this is wise living. There's a reason why we call it wise and wisdom, right? Wisdom is not something that you can buy, but it's something that you can grow with experience in your life. So long view living is Godward living. Long view living is hopeful living. Long view living will make you thankful for grace. Because here's the thing, the reason why we are dissatisfied, I've come to recognize, and have this, you can have everything and everything can be seemingly like amazing, but there's this constant little dissatisfaction or discontentment that is always going to be there. And that is because we're actually subconsciously, or in a way in our spirit, longing for a kind of unity more so with God. And so that is why we can start to pray and give ourselves grace as well when we don't kind of reach up to the expectations that we put on ourselves or that other people put on us. That it's totally normal, in fact. And remember that this is only a temporary home of yours. This body, this life, these relationships, this 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 scarf, this dress. I just realized I just had this scarf, and I was out the other day in the rain, and the rain just kept pouring on us as we drove home. And I came home, and these fabrics, they're like linen and with natural dye. So I put the yellow pants together with the like beige scarf, another scarf, and I left it, and I didn't really think about it. And then I found it today, and this scarf like had yellow like dye all over it. Like basically it had just like enmeshed. And it just got me to this realization again that you will always be slightly dissatisfied. And there will always be something which will reveal how like fallible our mind is and how much we actually don't know. Like I didn't know that. Like I didn't know that would happen if I did that they would kind of get enmeshed colors. And then you can get into this thinking of, oh, I should have known that, or I wish that I did differently, or something like that. And you begin becoming really hard on yourself when you forget that you will always be slightly dissatisfied and discontent, and give yourself grace in that, right? So I hope that is a little story and a reminder for you too, to just embrace the fact that you're going to have certain experiences that seem a little bit flawed, and which reveals your flawness too. And in that, we can begin to call upon God and peace, and allow ourselves to receive that as we grow through this life, this flawed existence. Also today, like we had to fix this washing machine, right? And it's like, do we really have to like fix this? Like, why don't we just get another one? But these like little moments in our day to day can really trigger our sense of dissatisfaction. And what really gave me a sense of peace was just knowing that that is fine. We should not long for this sense of constant happiness, constant joy, because if we had that all the time, then like what would be the purpose of this existence? Like we wouldn't be able to grow our character and our grit and our endurance, and we also wouldn't actually like find that much joy in the joyful moments or in the moments that really can trigger joy, because we'd constantly be feeling that, so there wouldn't be a sense of contrast. So whenever you feel dissatisfied, say thank you. Like, thank you, God, for having this event happen or having this kind of circumstance go on right now, because it actually allows me to appreciate when things go well. And you can begin to find gratitude actually in the things that are not going the right way. Apparently, looking from our point of view, looking from like this present moment. So, being and growing in spirituality is being able to look from an eternal perspective. That in an eternal perspective, would this really matter? Would this really matter? 5 years from now, 10 years from now, would this really matter? And if it does matter, well, how can it matter for the better? How can this allow you to grow rather than to just cause bitterness in you and to create bitterness in your heart? How can you let this soften you instead? Right? So it's important to remember this. In 2 Corinthians 5:1 as well, it says that if the tent that is our earthly home is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, but eternal in the heavens. So, really, what this says is that we shouldn't put all our efforts and like thinking that all the things that we're doing here in this earthly realm will give us and grant us happiness, because it's just not the case. What we're really meant to do is to begin to grow in perspective on what we're experiencing and to take that view of eternal life, eternal spiritual life. And from that, we can grow in love, we can grow in grace, we can grow in compassion, we can grow in forgiveness, we can grow in so many ways, right? So when you have a heated argument or a discussion with someone, or you feel like you're not fully connected with your family or your friends, or you feel like something's going wrong, or maybe it's something happening on your computer or whatever that's not the way that it's supposed to be, or the washing machine does not work or whatever, strive to grow in perspective as much as you can by looking at it from eternity into this present moment, and give grace and thank God for that, right? For that experience. So that was the kind of point of view that wanted to come through today. You will always be slightly discontent, dissatisfied, and that is a good thing to realize, because it allows you to grow in perspective and look at things from eternity rather than from this point of view, thinking that this dissatisfaction and this discontentment will last forever, because it will not. Nothing does. And I wanted to share one more thing that really came through for me right now as I was about to end. There's a little story from me growing up in my parents' home. And when you grow up in your parents' home, you begin looking at the way that they operate. And I remember, you know, they had this beautiful property and everything, but what did they do every year? They did these things to the garden to make sure they were pruning the garden, and they were painting the walls, and they were doing all these things. And so they had a little bit of dissatisfaction from the fact that things were decaying, but they did show up. They did show up again and again and again, year after year after year, and painted it again, pruned the garden again. And this is really what life is about. There will be events, there will be things that will be decaying, but this is just another opportunity for us to grow in character and care and love. And just the little tiny things like that. That is what we can do to really expand love, not only for ourselves, but those that we care about as well. So, with that being said, just focus on looking at discontentment and dissatisfaction and different events in your life that trigger that in you from the point of view of eternity, instead of looking at it like it will last forever, because again, it will not. And I encourage you to also join me inside my community called The Garden, where it's really all about growing your faith and perspective of life, perspective of yourself, and living from that place of faith, because it really allows you to be able to face those feelings, those temporary feelings that seem like they will last forever, like discontentment and dissatisfaction, so that you can really begin to show up in harmony in your life, or at least strive for that, because that's why we're here anyways. So you can go to bloomingdown.com/waitlist to sign up to the waitlist, and you'll be notified when we begin gathering in community online and in person as well. So that's it for today. So much love from me to you, and I will see you tomorrow.